One, thank you all for getting out here at 8 a.m. Kim and I were talking, as social workers who work in child welfare, we are typically late to all of our meetings this early, because we're typically working till the wee hours of the night. So I'm Alexandria, as was just said, and I've worked in child welfare literally my whole life. So just to give you some background on who I am and what I'm about. And also today my niece reminded me, it is our organization, so we're a family-run organization. It's our second birthday. So we were founded 2 years ago as of today. So not only am I the executive director, I'm the CEO and founder. And I'm the youngest of all my siblings, and I told them we were going to create a nonprofit in my mother's honor, and they were going to do what I said. And it has been a hard 2 years for them to get used to I'm the boss and they are not. But besides that, I also own Ware Consulting, so I do a lot of consulting work with child welfare agencies, nationally, locally, helping them think about innovational strategies and all the things. And then I also just launched a speaking business, and it's called Alexandria Ware Speaks. So I'm very, very into child welfare. In the past, I've written a policy, domestic policy council, wrote a brief on supportive strategies for youth when they're aging out of care, and as well as briefing the White House Domestic Policy Council in Congress. And then recently, I just briefed the United Nations on racial equity in the child welfare system and how them being the United Nations can hold America accountable. And then besides that, I like to do research. So I've done research for Think of Us on our Away from Home report. And it talks about the harms of congregate care for youth in foster care and how we should shut down those congregate cares, because we've seen a lot of young people have died at the hands of congregate care due to illegal chokeholds. If you're not aware, Cedric Lofton was a giant right down the street, and he died because of the chokehold that they had as well. So really passionate about how we keep our young people alive in this system that took them away from their parents and said that, hey, I can raise you better than your parents can, but all the data has shown that they can't, as they take their rights up. So really want to give you an understanding of just what child welfare is. So how many people in the room actually understand child welfare, work in child welfare, all those things? Okay, so you have some people who are some experts, some people who kind of know, kind of don't know. Okay, perfect. So really, child welfare, in other words, people you'll hear call foster care system, some people call it the family policing system, some people call it the system. So there's so many terms for it all to mean the same thing. And so typically what happens is families come in, and they come in based on like a tip. So someone calls a hotline and says, like, I suspect abuse and neglect, right? And in that abuse and neglect, it can be that maybe the family doesn't have running water, they don't have enough food, parents are beating kids, parents are human trafficking their kids, or they've been sexually abused, all these different things, right? And so from there, they screen it in or screen it out. And so basically, if it's screened in, there's this whole investigation process that they go through, and they find out if the parents are substantiated against abuse or unsubstantiated. And it's so much, and that's a whole course within itself that I don't have time to get into. And then there's ones that are screened out. And sometimes they assign those like family need an assessment. So it's just some people who may need a little bit of help with like maybe going to getting more groceries or things like that. So they send them to other organizations as well. And then right here in Kansas, we have 7,000 young people who are in foster care. In Sedgwick County, we have over 1,200. I think the last time I checked the number was close to 1,700 young people right here in Sedgwick County area that are in foster care at any given night. And of that, we have about 200 who age out of foster care from Wichita, Sedgwick County every year. So those 200 young people who sometimes end up homeless, sometimes end up pregnant on government assistance, all these things because they don't have the right supports or the right network or the right people looking out for them. And so really that's the big overview, really fast of child welfare to help you understand. So what we do at Culture Creations, we work with youth who are getting ready to age out of care. So those are our 14 to 21-year-olds who, at that time, they're not meeting permanency. So whether they've not been adopted, they're not going back to reintegration, they they haven't done guardianship, whatever that may look like, right? So we help them for like beyond foster care. And so that is through like our peer mentoring circles, that's through our transition planning, that's through our upcoming holiday party, through our graduation celebration, and then we have services for foster parents called our hair harmony coaching program. And so that helps foster parents learn how to do black and brown youth hair, but we coach you through it. So you have a personal coach who walks you through and teaches you all the things. So that's some of the child welfare landscape here, and then we also have kinship care. And so really, I wrote this PowerPoint a couple days ago, right? I'm really one, I like to listen to God. And I like to make sure that I understand what God wants me to say to people. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna talk about like how I created this organization and the mission and all the things. And then this morning when I was in prayer, God was like, that's not what people need to hear, right? And so for me, our mission was created because we want to make sure that any young person who's leaving the system understands love. Any young person who's leaving the system has connections. Has people who, if your tire is flat at 3 a.m., you can call them. I got a list of people at 3 a.m. I can call, and I aged out of foster care. And I aged out after being in foster care for 15 years. So based on all the statistics, I should not be standing here right now. I should not have my own business. I shouldn't have a master's degree. I literally should have 5 kids and be on government assistance. And so I always tell young people, if I can do it, you can do it.
One of the things that I chose this topic of my personal experiences and some of the things that I have gone through over the course of the cybersecurity realm and then the other businesses that I was a part of. What does really resilient and being resilient in an organization mean? Uh-oh, okay. I think I may not have the latest one up there, but we'll go with it. Okay. The resiliency really looks for in what you're doing for the business and even in personal life is for you to anticipate any challenges and how do you react to it and if you plan for it. With that in mind, I'll take it back to the basics if you're in business. You have to really think through the process. With that in mind, what you're looking for is when you start the business, and this is really eye-opening for me when I was doing the research about a year ago. According to Forbes, close to 80% of the organizations don't have a vision statement. What does a vision statement really mean is really when you think about growing up. We always have mission statements, we have values, we have what exactly we do. But growing up, we don't really think about what is the vision statement for the organization. It really needs to be abstract. It needs to be really saying how and what I see myself for the company in the next 10 years, 20 years, is what you're looking for. It needs to be broad. It needs to be big. With that in mind, let me share with you just a little bit slight difference because a lot of individuals have trouble understanding and mix the mission statement and vision statement. Mission statement is really describing what you are and why you exist. That answers the question of why and what you do. That is the mission statement and the mission of your organization. And a lot of times we attach the core values right after that. We don't necessarily build a vision for it. And when you're writing a mission statement, you're saying this is what we identify as, this is what we do, and this is why we do it. Whereas vision statement, you're really saying, where do you see yourself? Where do you see the organization 5 years from now, 10 years from now? With that in mind, your vision statement has to align with all the decision making that you make for your organization, because you will build your goals, your yearly goals, quarterly goals, 5-year goals. That should align with your vision of the company. It could be financially motivated. It could be something like yesterday, if you're part of it, Amazon, where they had this idea how they want to work on the environment. That could be your goal. So it really is talking about how you want to see yourself and where you want to see yourself as the company grows. Now that you have your vision statement, mission statement, you look at a team. How do you build your team and what do you need to do? One of the pieces, and I learned this from a book called Entrepreneurs Operating System, EOS, yeah. And that's where we talk about a team that talks about if you have your team, you should know, first off, do they get and do they understand what position they're in? Do they understand fully what it means to be in that position? So really the first question, if you understand that they get it, that means, okay, great, they know what they need to do. Second is, do they want to do it? And do they really have passion for doing it? Then you transition into, do they have the capacity? So with that, let me give you an example for it. If you have somebody who does marketing really well, and it comes natural to them, and it's something they can do in their sleep. You wake them up and they can give you an idea for it. So that is, they're good at it, they have the capacity to do it, but do they care to do it? There may be more of the people saying, I don't really care for marketing, but I'm really good at wanting to transition to becoming a strategist. How do I do more branding side and maybe work with you on how to go global? They may have some other ideas of their own in that sector, but they may not care as much about that marketing, but it may come natural to them. So that's what that means is, first, do they get what the position is? Yeah, they understand it. Do they really want it? If they don't, and if it doesn't meet it, you may have to say, okay, let's talk through this process and see what we should do for you, what we should look at. So really, as you're building a team and as you're adding more people, asking these questions will be great. Just don't go with, are they qualified and do they want to do, then do they have the capacity? So ask those 3 questions with that person as you build that profile of that person. I'd like to use this as an example, and as you build the team, and airline industry is something that we always talk about how bad the experience is. Every time. But we never talk about the thousands of flights that take off and land perfectly fine. They come on time. Sometimes they come early, but we never talk about it. But the goals that they have and the vision they have, all these aircraft companies and the airline companies, is to get you from point 1 to point B in a safe place, on time, secure, and have that experience. But we always forget or never talk about how good it was or how we got there safely. We always remember the long lines. We always remember the holiday times. They lost my luggage or the flights were canceled. With that in mind, within that team, what I love about this airline example is everybody in that team is vision focused, which is giving you a good experience. From the time you book the ticket, coming up to the counter, sitting, and then getting to your destination. They focus on the customer experience, they manage their expectations. They will always also look at what they need to do. And they are really, at the time when it needs to be adjusted, if the plan is not going accordingly, they pivot and adjust. They know exactly what needs to do. So if you have a team, when you're building that team, make sure you have that. And now, one of the, again, in the flight attendants, think of it as, as you're first, they're at the counter checking you in. If something happens, very quickly to pivot and say, sorry, we have an engine problem. This is the solution you can come up with. Can you do this? So they're managing your expectations right then and there, even before you board. After you board, you get your seat, and they go in. One of the critical things they do is they go recruit for some help by saying, hey, you're sitting by the emergency door. Are you able to execute when the flight comes? So they recruit some helpers in case something happens. And then they manage their expectations, where the captain will tell you that this is the flight, this is where we're going, this is how long it'll take, and the weather is this. They give you that right before the takeoff. Then if there's turbulence, and they will let you know, hey, time to the seatbelt off. So they're constantly working with you to make sure you're getting experience you need to get. So that's the airline industry that does that with you all the time. At the same time, you have your flight attendants. Before takeoff, they tell you, in case something happens, this is what we need to do. Which is, put the mask on, put this, and pull the stuff out from the seat. All these things, the steps, they're telling you, if something happens, we're here, but I can't take care of all of you here. So I want you to be prepared. With that in mind, in your business, if you're thinking through this process, you can say, hey, ahead of time, manage expectations. Hey, we lost somebody at the office. This person quit, we're shorthanded. Let me work with you. Just be patient with me. If you just address it ahead of time, manage that customer expectations. You're not doing, injustice there, right? But really, you're telling the customer, preparing the customer to manage the expectations.
Hopefully you guys can hear me with this mic here, but I want to thank you all for being here. I really appreciate every single one of you just for showing up, investing in yourselves. I want to thank Wichita Startup Community for putting this on, and for Brewer Labs for hosting us in this space. Now, how many of you like going on adventures? Okay. Now, how many of you like the planning part of those adventures?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Now, how many of you just kind of wing it, you hop in the car, the plane, and then you just figure it out on the way? Okay, a few of you there. Now, how many of you get to your destination without a map or a plan? Okay, hands go up. So today, I'm going to help you map out your leadership adventure. So I'm going to invite you along on my journey, my story, and help you find your story, your adventure, in starting your business. Now, at the end of this talk, I'm going to invite you all to collaborate in discussion and share your story with the person next to you. Find someone in this room and share what you learned, some adversities or obstacles that you had to overcome, maybe some resources that you had to gather to get to the next step in your business. So I want to challenge you all to engage, be present, be brave, and invest in each other. Now, this story starts with a trip to the Great Sand Dunes. Now, my brother, myself, and my friend Matt and I, we all decided to go to the Great Sand Dunes of Colorado. If you don't know anything about the Great Sand Dunes, they are the largest dunes in all of North America. So these weren't any just rolling hills dunes. These were like mountains of dunes. Now our goal was to get to the very top of the dunes. That was our vision. That was our purpose for going, was to see that absolutely beautiful view from the top. Now, in order to get there, we had to have the right type of resources. So we decided to rent sand sleds. Now, that definitely quickened our pace, because we had to get there at a certain amount of time so we wouldn't lose daylight. So we were off on our trek, we start going up, and we are exhausted. Because every 2 steps you take forward, you go 1 step back, just sinking in the sand. So we kept going, and going. And finally, we reached one of the highest points in the dunes. And at that high point, there was kind of this bowl shape where we could finally start to practice our sand sledding. So we can start going a lot quicker. Now, we started practicing, we felt pretty confident, we were steering with our hands, and everything. There weren't as many reps as there was before. But my brother and Matt, they both say, "Carl, man, you're really good at this. Like, you should go down a steeper slope because you're just not wrecking at all. Like, you can steer just fine." Like, yeah, I got this. I'm confident. I'm doing well. So we go to the backside of this dune. Again, this is one of the highest dunes in the entire Great Sand Dunes area. It was completely clear, pristine sand. No one had went down it. Now, there was a reason that no one had went down that slope. It was steep. But, I was feeling confident. My friends, my brother, they're like, "Oh yeah, Carl, you got this." So I set my sled down. I get on the sled. and I push off. Now I'm moving. I'm accelerating, going faster, 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 faster. Now all of a sudden, I don't know how I'm gonna stop. And finally I see some vegetation towards the bottom. I'm like, okay, if I hit that vegetation, I'll slow down, no problem, it's all good. So that was my plan. I was gonna hit the vegetation, slow my pace, and we'd all be good. So I'm getting closer, 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 closer. Then finally I get close to the vegetation and I realize that it's a ramp. I hit the ramp. I go straight flying through the air. I black out. I don't know what's happened. And all of a sudden, boom, I hit the ground. The first thing I yelled out was, I broke my arm. So my brother and Matt, they come rushing down. In the meantime, I noticed I could move my arm. So maybe it wasn't broken, but I had certainly dislocated it. They come down, they ask, Carl, are you all right? I was like, yeah, I'm all right. Now I was in pain. I was laying there in the sand, not moving much. But I slowly started to get up. Started walking around a little bit, and my brother, he asked me, are you still able to make it to the top of the sand dunes? Or should we head back? Should we start going back home? So I keep walking a little bit, and I realized I can do this. I can keep going. We can make it to the top. So we keep going. We finally make it to the top of the sand dunes. We made it to our goal, our vision. The view is absolutely beautiful. Snow-capped mountains all around the dunes. It's something I've never seen before. Even through all that hardship of climbing up the dunes, going 2 steps forward and 1 step back, having an accident where I almost lose my life. We made it. And in that moment, I realized that everything worthwhile is uphill. I'll say that again. Everything worthwhile is uphill.
I'm going to say good morning. So, I'm really excited about this panel because I think data is really, really important no matter what phase of business life you are in. And so, thank you, Alyssa McGinn from InfoFluency for jumping in here and gathering this team of data experts. And so, Alyssa actually helped us out a couple months ago now with the Accelerated Business Conference. She came in and she spoke on data. And so I'm really excited to kind of get a continuation from you in that and the rest of you. And so I will allow you to introduce your panelists.
Well, I'm making my panelists introduce themselves, so I'm not going to spoil them. But yeah, we're thankful to be here, and we're really going to be talking about, like you said, the innovation track and how we feel that insights and data can, maybe up here on the stage, we'll say, is the driver to innovation and how to innovate. And so I'm going to let my panel introduce themselves. I'd like you guys to share your name. Well, I'll do this first too. And your name, your company, or what you do, and kind of just like your perspective, like where you come from in on the conversation on analytics and data. And I'll start. My name is Alyssa McGinn, and I'm with InfoFluency. We focus on building out analytics for mid-market companies, really with the visualization piece as the center of our business. So, you want to start?
Sure. My name is Ted Krebo. I'm a data analyst at Moonbase Labs. We work with a lot of small companies building custom software and analytics for them. And I come from it, data as a storyteller. That's kind of my perspective. So I'm less technical than many of these great folks over here.
Yeah, my name is Aiden Hamilton, so I'm the CRM manager at the Chamber of Commerce currently. I came into analytics from an operations perspective. I was a store manager at Starbucks, and I use it every single day to make decisions for my business. So I found this to be an exciting field because of how much I was able to bring to the table because of data.
My name is Chris White. I'm the Director of Analytics at Cornerstone Tech Systems Group. And I came to data via education. I'm a former teacher, and I got really into predicting outcomes and or future enrollment piece patterns, so I believe in forecasting, like the number nerdy stuff, so I'm that guy. Our team does a ton of data engineering work, so we're the ones that go and find data, bring it together, so, you know, help break down silos, zip it all up together, and then if they need visualizations on top of that, so.
I'm Jordan Walker, and I'm the founder of Bonfire Strategy, and what we do is we work with companies to help them understand what their sales and marketing data is and how to activate it for better customer experiences. I started my career in marketing and really more on like the creative side, but I quickly became a lot more interested in how people make decisions and how marketers could actually be better stewards of walking alongside that journey rather than always looking for that silver bullet tactic that infiltrates to get someone to buy. I'm more along the lines of how can we actually create better customer experiences, relationships, and then ultimately focus on who's your most valuable customer and how do you actually engage them most effectively.
So we have an incredible panel that come from a lot of different perspectives on the data conversation. And you know, what gets me excited about even talking about this in the context of Startup Week is that startups really and small businesses are in the most unique position to create data-driven companies and cultures moving forward. You know, these big companies some of us work with, it's a cruise ship. Like, it's so hard to turn culture in any sense around if you're going from not utilizing data or capturing it, not doing anything with it. But in a startup context or a small business context, you're uniquely positioned. You're close to your product, you're close to your customers. You have a small, lean team, and that's an incredible opportunity. And so, you know, we're really excited to be kind of coming in at an earlier stage to talk about data conversation. Jordan didn't know I was going to do this, but I'm going to quote something that she said, which I think is really good. Data is not just a method to report, it's a transformative asset that can impact your growth and help make proactive business decisions. If that's not perfectly summed up, I don't know what is. So I'll maybe get next to that. And so the title of this conversation is Innovation Through Insight, Leveraging First-Party Data for Growth. Now, I feel like that's filled with a lot of words that we feel like we should know what they mean, but people have a lot of different ideas of what those words mean, so I want to level set us a little bit here. I'm going to read some definitions. I want you guys to kind of add in some thoughts you have. This is just from the good old World Wide Web. So first, starting with innovation. Innovation is a process by which a domain, a product, or a service is renewed and brought up to date by applying new processes, introducing new techniques, or establishing successful ideas to create new value. The creation of value is a defining characteristic of innovation. So I want to kind of throw this panel's way. In this context that we're talking about today, would anything you add to that definition? Any thoughts related to data in the context of innovation?
That last little snippet that you said about creating the value, what was it? The creation of value is a defining characteristic of innovation. And what that makes me think of, at least in the world that I exist in, is a lot of times when we're thinking about sales and marketing strategies, we tend to kind of lean on like who are the mass customers or that scale of customers that we want to go after. But I think from like an innovative standpoint, that point of value is very important, of really truly identifying like who are your most valuable customers. And that doesn't necessarily mean like who's the higher revenue, who maybe has like the longer term or like the longevity with you, who are the people that are going to refer you the most. From like a tech perspective or from like, you know, an app usage perspective, who are those that are giving you like the best insights in order to innovate and, you know, pivot your product as necessary. And so I think that last whole point about the creation of value driving innovation is really important, because it's not just saying like create something new or extend your product line just to extend it. It's how can you utilize what you're learning about what works and doesn't work for your customer or your market to make it better or extend from there.
Excuse me, I'm still fighting a head cold, so my apologies on that. I really like the definition of innovation. I think the one piece that we would really put into it is a lot of times you first have to start by valuing the data you have, but also really put into perspective that, you know, this is This is a systemic problem, right? So if you're trying to innovate, you're not just innovating around one specific piece of it, you're innovating an entire system that all ties together. And so data plays an important part of that, but it's not the only part. And so as you think about your businesses or the things you're trying to push forward and truly push the needle on, what are all the factors that contribute to that, and how does data play into the strategies that impacts those factors?
Yeah, I mean, these are some very smart people up here. So, I mean, for me, the big thing that I would say is that, you know, as a business operator, I was always very focused on key things that I wanted to manage. Like, I need to make sure the money's up, I need to make sure other things, retention and all that. Data, for me, brings in that third dimension when it comes to really innovative strategy. Being able to solve problems that you don't currently know you are having based on the numbers that you're currently seeing. Like, it brings a whole dimension to the business that you aren't currently seeing based on the aggregation of what it is that you're actually recording and how can it be interpreted to innovate your business.
I think everyone wants to do good work. Everyone wants to constantly be improving, and it's nice to be able to measure progress against some reference point. Otherwise, you just feel good about work, and it's important to feel good about work, but it's nice when you can quantify that. And so when we think of innovation, sometimes it's just marginal improvement and moving this number up marginally over the course of a day or a week or a month, and compounds over time. So a lot of it's just